Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. Now, the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, has been arrested in Owerri, the Imo State capital. Ajaero was picked up from the NLC State Council Secretariat by armed policemen in Owerri, according to the head of media at the NLC headquarters, Benson Opa, who confirmed the development. The NLC is leading a statewide protest and strike in Owerri over what it described as lack of respect for workers and paid salaries, amongst others. Earlier on the news, Trust TV spoke with Benson Opa, media head, NLC Secretariat, to give an update on the situation. Here is what he said.
A peaceful protest today in Owerri as the result of non-payment of salaries and pensions for upward of 42, 44 months, amid the violation of other labor rights, including the attack and stripping of our secretariat here in the state. So early this morning, when some of our members went to the secretariat preparatory for the action to begin for the peaceful protest, hoodlums attacked them, stripped them of their personal possessions, and beat them up. So the unsuspecting ones who did not know went and met a similar fate. So we resolved within now we said, okay, that the right and proper thing to do, instead of engaging our hoodlums, would be to draw the attention of the police and other security people in the state. And we did that, and they came. And what next happened was that, they turned on us, okay? Among the things they did, they beat up some media persons that they first had their photographs taken. They seized their equipment, beat others, and had the president of NLC arrested and taken to an unknown destination as I speak with you. Nigerians have no need for clearance from anybody, for a peaceful protest. Okay? It is within, in fact, some of the issues against which we are protesting are the core reasons behind what you call unrest in the state. When you don't pay people their wages, their pensions, when you don't give people space to breathe, when you hold everybody by the jugular, when you pauperize the people, when you shut down the state, the natural consequence of that will be more protests. Okay? So we didn't need permission from anybody, and that is within our constitutional right. Okay?
Right, but did you?
We don't need permission from anybody. Listen to me. We do not need permission from anybody. That is our right as contained in the 1999 Constitution as amended. Do you know that people are dying in droves because of poverty, because of hunger? How do you feel? You work for a month, you do not get paid. You work for 2 months, don't get paid. 3 months, don't get paid. 10 months, all in that order. So those who perpetuate evil will always create conditions for you and I not to protest. Nothing. He is held incommunicado. Nobody knows where he is. And in fact, this is more or less an abduction because there was no arrest, a warrant, nothing. Well, NLC has made appropriate contacts, and I want to assure you that if those contacts don't yield the desired results, I want to tell you that there will be an appropriate response from NLC. I do not want to preempt what NLC will do next, but rest assured that there will be a convincing response from NLC.
And away from that, on the sidelines of the council meeting on Tuesday, President Bola Tinubu intervened in the brewing tension in Rivers State and negotiated a settlement between the two main actors. But State Governor Bola Mohammed disclosed this to newsmen at the State House after a meeting with the National Police Council. Now take a look at this report as put together by our State House correspondent, Kinda Mood.
The pictures coming out of River State is indicative of intractable differences between camps, with allegations upon allegations coming from only one side. Amid the dust, 26 members of the Assembly suspended the Speaker and elected and inaugurated a new Speaker. The governor is pointing accusing fingers at his predecessor, who he claims is trying to push him out of office. But when the two men met at the presidential Villa Abuja for the National Police Council on Tuesday, none of those tensions bubbled to the fore. So the biggest news of the day was Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed's revelation after the meeting that President Tinubu had intervened in the crisis in Rivers State.
We had a closed session, if you recall, members of the press, where a very serious national issue was discussed that has security implication. That is the problem emerging in Rivers. The president, in his usual leadership position, intervened, and then it would appear there will be peace in that respect. And so
Governor Mohammed was so happy with the intervention that he commended President Tinubu for showing leadership.
And so in that talking, the governors of the PDP on their behalf, I spoke and extolled the leadership quality of the president, congratulated him on behalf of the president, and expressing appreciation that all the PDP governors who had gone through the tribunal have emerged victorious. We know that is leadership. There was professionalism in the conduct and the way and manner the judiciary is working under his leadership. And he has shown that he is a president for everybody, a president for PDP, a president for APC.
It remains to be seen if the negotiated settlement would lead to both sides sheathing swords. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amudu, Trust TV News.
The PDP governors, led by its chairman and governor of Bauchi State, Bola Mohammed, also paid a courtesy visit to the office of the Minister of Federal Capital Territory and former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. The delegation hoped to troubleshoot the issues with a view to settle the rift between the FCT minister and his supposed godson and current governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara. In another development, Governor Fubara described the feud between him and his predecessor as mere disagreement. As a father and son would have an expressed confidence that their differences will be resolved sooner than later. Now to our talking point, we will be looking at the situation in Kogi State, ahead of the 11th November governorship election that is going to take place. There has been concerns around securing the electoral environment and perhaps ensuring a level playing field for all political parties and the electorates themselves. And to discuss these issues and more, we have in the studio the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, talking about Alhaji Shehu Musa Kabam. Thank you for joining us.
Great pleasure, thank you.
Right, okay, though we have quite a number of issues to discuss, let's start with Kogi. In a number of days from now, the Kogites will go to the poll, to elect a new governor. And of course, there has been concerns, just like it was re-echoed by the Social Democratic Party, around the electoral environment. What are your assessments so far? Because there was some sort of pessimism on your part that the election could not hold. What are your fears?
No, I don't know if I've said the election could not hold. It could not hold for the following reasons. One, like I've said, INEC is not in charge of deployment of security agencies. INEC is not in charge of providing conducive environment for election.
Right.
INEC are in charge of deploying both sensitive and non-sensitive material at every polling unit for the election. Now, the large chunk of an institution that is responsible for providing a conducive environment for election is the executive itself, which is the president and the commander-in-chief. Every deployment is under the president and commander-in-chief. Now, when there is a lawlessness, when there is a situation that seems like anarchy is ensuing, it means there's a failure of the executive arm of the government to restore law and order. And when there's no restoration of law and order, of course, you cannot expect INEC to conduct election, because INEC officials have also been victims of violence, just the way an average Nigerians who are willing to go and cast their votes are worried about their life, whether being injured or being killed. A lot of people are being killed in Kogi State. It didn't start today. And these informations are at the doorstep of the president, at the doorstep of the service chiefs. I'm happy to say that after our last meeting with the INEC chairman, he was quite very precise, very straight to the point, and he have told all the chairmen that he's going to be with the service chiefs, the office of the NSA, which they did. And listening to the brief of that meeting coming from the mouth of the NSA, it gives hopes that they are very determined to restore law and order.
Yes,
and also listening to the Chief of Defense Staff, it gives overwhelming confidence that anarchy and lawlessness will no longer exist, that the government will be fully in charge to secure the citizens and allow election to take place.
Yeah, I understand there was a marching order on the security, heads of the security agencies to ensure a peaceful conduct of the exercise. But you talked about the role, of the executive, that is at the state level, to allow that or to guarantee that level playing field.
No, not at the state level. The governor have no power to deploy security.
So where is the challenge now? Is it that you're losing confidence in the security agencies to execute this mandate?
Well, not that we are. It has been happening. It has happened virtually everywhere, in every state of the federation, where you see security agencies deploy at the polling unit, and the snatching of ballot boxes, disruption of ballot papers, and so on is going on while the security agencies are there. It defines who we are. That's the simple elementary of what I'm saying. Now, I'm not worried talking about the governor of the states, because the governor of the state, yes, is an elected governor of the states. But then the Constitution says that the president is the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces, including military, paramilitary, and all the security agencies in Nigeria. They are all answerable to him. He appoints all the service chiefs. And which means the body of restoration of law and order, decency, and adherence to the due principles and sanctity of the electoral at the polling unit, it beholds on the president to secure that place. Which means that the transfer of trust the president have done to the service chiefs, including principally or primarily the IG of police, must be complied with and must be applied. Nobody should be allowed to be above board. Elected officials should not be allowed to be emperors. Otherwise, this democracy that we are striving so hard, we are exhausting our energy to protect at all costs, will be a big problem for the country to handle.
Right. Okay, now looking at the marching order, if you like, or the resolve by the federal government to ensure a level playing field, a conducive electoral environment. We have less than, not up to a week now to the election. What are the pillars you're getting from Kogi? Are we getting towards that, having that a conducive environment for the election, or there are still pockets of, some of those security challenges that we're talking about?
Well, sources available to me, I can say happily that a lot of cleansing are ongoing in Kogi State. A lot of restoration of law and order is ongoing in Kogi State. And so far, the security agencies have sent a very clear signal that election is about INEC. And not the governor, not anybody. The governor have only one vote to cast. Other citizens of Kogi State and Imo and Bayelsa have the right to go out and cast their votes without any hindrance whatsoever from the state governor. And that is what we are talking about. Since the law that established INEC gave INEC the power to conduct the election, gave INEC power to declare elections that have been conducted after counting the vote, it means that the two basic principles, operational principle, lies in between INEC and then the institution that's supposed to protect citizens that comes out to cast their votes. Those are the two layers. Once these two layers are fully protected, the election will be held peacefully. Someone will emerge, someone will be announced by the institution responsible, which is INEC. That is the point we've been talking about. And I'm happy the security agencies are up and doing right now in Kogi State. People are going about doing their things in the last 1 week, devoid of whatever harassment emanating from somebody who feels is above board.
Yeah, but where do you leave the principal actors, that is the political actors, so to speak? Because some say, beyond all the arrangement that will be put in place by the government and all of that, if the principal actors, that is the politicians themselves, the candidate themselves, do not resolve to have a peaceful conduct, we'll continue to have this back and forth. And the main argument is that, or rather the accusation is that, the whole issues around security in Kogi or insecurity in Kogi revolves around two candidates, or rather two political parties. That is the ruling party in the state and your party, the Social Democratic Party. And this, to some sort, has manifested in the last couple of months or days, having confrontations and so on and so forth. What's your reaction to that?
Well, if you are a force to be reckoned with, naturally this fight is bound to happen, perceptionally or otherwise. But let me state this, it didn't start happening today. SDP have been a victim in Kogi for quite a while. Even when the current Senator Natasha was contesting, don't forget the humiliation she went through. She was beaten, almost getting stripped naked while the governor was there, the former IG was there. It was one of the most barbaric things that has happened in the political environment. And then, of course, our office was burned down then. Recently, our office was burned down. People were killed and maimed. You cannot assemble. Now, the political actors are secondary issue. The primary issue is that, is there a law and order? Is there a deterrence for anybody who violates the law? If there is no sufficient deterrence for people who breach the law, they cannot be apprehended, they cannot be prosecuted, then we are dealing with an environment that is strictly violent, strictly incoherent. And that is what we are talking about. Whether a political actor is violent or otherwise, the law is there to take care of it. The security agencies are there to take care of it. But in a situation where the security agencies have turned their eyes to another side, while violence is being leashed on innocent people, because their service, in their own understanding, is to the people in government, not the citizens that their money is being used to pay them salaries and what have you, then the anarchy is inevitable. What we are trying to avoid is the anarchy. No, if you have a government that is strict about those who violate the law, you will not have it. No matter how violent the political actor is, there is nothing he can do, because he will subject himself to the rules and regulations governing the process. Not just election, any other time. When a nation lacks capacity to instill discipline on citizens, anarchy is inevitable. Yeah,
but again, your party also has been accused of, orchestrating some of these attacks. Or so at some point, it was accused of, attacking, a gathering of the APC and so on and so forth. And then there are also people who felt that your party is crying more than they believe, right? Not crying more than they believe. It's exaggerating the whole things. That you are bringing in issues. You're trying to make the situation looks unprecedented, but other political parties are campaigning and they are not complaining.
I wish we can exaggerate really based on what you have said, but you are not correct. There is no party that have campaigned like SDP. No party in Kogi State that have gone through the whole local government like SDP. There is none. I challenge you to find out. So if we are violent oriented, we wouldn't do that. No party have been disrupted in our campaigns like SDP. Now, where do we have the resources, where do we have the security agents to disrupt such states? It's not possible. We are the victims. And because we are airing out how the party is being intimidated, being harassed by the state actors, the state is turning it against us that we are complaining too much. Now, if we take laws into our hands to balance the terror on ground, The issue is that we are violent, but we have not taken a reprisal back. We have told everybody, even at the point where the governor was attacked, was at the point of assassination, his cars were pierced with bullets, which you have seen the slides and so on and so forth. We told all of them nobody should strike back because we don't have any reason to strike back. If we strike back, then we are causing anarchy. We did not. Are you likely towing that line? Because I heard you talking about the fact that you also have the capacity to balance the terror. Yes, our number, our followership in Kogi have capacity to balance any terror. But I said that has a condition. The condition is that in the absence of the government doing its job, restoring law and order, people can resort to self-defense. Self-defense is allowed in law. You cannot come into my house and try to kill me and then I will look at you. I will apply self-defense mechanism. And then the government, we are saying if you refuse to do what is necessary, we have the capacity to balance the terror. We have more numbers on ground in Kogi State. But that is not our primary objective. But drawing attention of the government, the implication of remaining aloof as an institution, they have the responsibility to call everybody to order. That's the point I'm making. Okay, but are you also losing confidence, in the security architecture in the state? Because if security agencies are there, they've been given the right directives, to be fair and just to all, and then yet you are complaining. Are you saying they're taking side? I don't think you are fair if you say I'm complaining. You've been part of the press conferences we had. We have told you that we have never conducted any activities without writing to the security agencies, seeking for their protection. There was none. I have all the acknowledgement copies. And then we have written to the president, we have chronicled to the president what is going on in Kogi State. We have served all the service chiefs. I have all the acknowledgement. Now, which means we are for a due process that will protect the citizens, will protect the country, and will restore law and order. Otherwise, we will not follow this process. But we follow the entire process. And even at that, what we expected is the proactiveness of the security agencies in dealing with the situation. I've went to the IG's office physically to discuss these issues, and apart from that, we try to coordinate within the actors in the states to be law-abiding. And then you hear a serving governor calling himself a white lion. And then how do you compare it to? An antelope? Is it an antelope? No, he described us as antelope. He called himself a white lion. It's more like a clash of wild animals. Well, I don't know if wild animals are the smartest animals in the animal kingdom. I have no idea about that. The horse, maybe because of the logo anyway. That's by the way. Okay, let's look at the electoral environment. I mean, you reach out. You did mention that your party has gone, through the nooks and crannies of Kogi, to canvass for the votes. Even though some say your candidate actually get into the race very late or so, wasn't formidable and all of that. How is your party I don't know who ready? Said that. You are the one saying that. Well, looking at... because you need to have statistics to back it up. Yeah, he entered the race very, very lately. So virtually all parties have latecomers. Okay. It depends. All political parties have crash programs. Okay, so let's look at... I'm looking at the strength of your party now. The SDP has been there even in the last elections and so on. It has participated actively. But how prepared are you to dislodge some of those concerns around, ethnic politics, and of course the numbers, because there is also concern around, having the right numbers to be able to win the election. How are you navigating through some of these challenges? Well, I don't want to comment about ethnic politics because I'm not a product of ethnic politics. Those who train me in politics are some of the best career politicians in Nigeria, so I don't belong to that category. Number two, if you cascade the politics into the peculiarities of Kogi State, you'll find out it's almost inevitable because of poor governance. People are resorting to fighting for survival, for their sovereignty, and for their economic freedom. Now, the dichotomy are quite clear. The east of Kogi zone have 9 local governments, and then the central and the west have other local. I think the central have least local governments. Now, the competition is between the three forces. Yeah. Muri is from the east, which is Igala predominant, people.
Zone, that's right.
Zone, and then you have Dino and others
from the
Echo side, the west, and then here you have Otodo from the central. The candidate of the governor. So it's a process that defines itself from different political parties. Right. He is a candidate of my party, the SDP. Dino is a candidate of the PDP. And then Ododo is a candidate of the APC. So it's a clean competition. There's no any issue there. You cannot tell me to stop campaigning simply because your candidate belongs to another party. The political environment is for us to go and compete and win.
But how are you competing? How are you reaching out?
We are over-competing, and that is why we are a threat. They are seeing us as a threat. We are not sleeping. If we are sleeping, nobody will talk about us. Don't forget that from zero gravity to about 13 elected members today of the SDP. They did not fall from heaven. We fought for it. We are capable to face the situation, and we are facing it.
So you are capable of dislodging the Ayabelo's influence in the state, because he is also looking at the fact that the incumbency factor is there. He has the chairman across the local government. He has, all that it takes of political appointees across.
I think if you are current about the movement in Kogi State, some of these things you are mentioning, you will not mention it. Because a lot of things are shifting away. A lot of dynamics are springing up.
In favor of the SDP.
I did not mention SDP. Okay. What I'm telling you is that I'm telling you that things are shifting away tremendously and dramatically. And if anybody will sit down and tell you that, look, I will have the way 100%, I don't think he's sincere to himself, but I can tell you, we are leading with about 65% as it is right now. And we are still pushing on. And a week to the election will determine a lot of things. So that I can assure you that so far, given the statistics available, we are not worried about anything. But we are not saying that we know tomorrow. Only God knows tomorrow.
Only God knows tomorrow. We are also prepared, to dislodge the current structure of the white lion. Anyway.
Well, it's not the first time anyway. PDP ruled for 16 years. Within 6 months, another party came together and dislodged PDP. So there's nothing surprising about it. Any organized people can dislodge anybody.
Right. Okay. In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics. And today we're looking at the off-season elections with particular reference to Kogi, ahead of the November 11 election. And we're looking at securing the environment, the political permutations, and the preparedness ahead of this very important election. And I've been interfacing with the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, Elijah Musagabam. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at other key national issues, that are making headlines in the polity. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics. You can do well by joining us across all our social platforms, and you can also watch us live on YouTube. And back in the studio, we're looking at a number of issues. We just look at the electoral environment ahead of the November 11 election in Kogi, and then we'll also be looking at some key national issues. We're back from the break, and let's look at some of the issues making the headlines, especially in our polity. the recent judgment of the Supreme Court on the appeal filed by the presidential candidates of the PDP and that of the Labour Party has generated a lot of reactions, especially within the polity. To some, they say our judiciary is on trial, looking at the outcome. To others, the judiciary has lived up to its responsibility as the arbiter, if you like, the last hope of the common man. Let me get your take, looking at, the outcome of the judgment and the reactions that followed.
Well, I participated in that election. Anybody who is quite very versatile and conversant with the way and the manner INEC conducted that election, the guidelines emanating from INEC is very clear. That election from A to Z was to be conducted manually. From A to Z was to be conducted manually. And the proposal was that once election is being cast as the polling unit, and then the service is available, they can upload it. If the service is not available, when they get to the service area, they can upload it to the IRF. That is not mandatory. It's not a mandatory, it's an option, because you don't have the service that covers this country. So the entire election from beginning to end was conducted manually. So, two, the law state clearly that election is about polling unit agents. Any party that are no serious polling unit agents should forget about winning election in Nigeria. Should forget about it. Because if you challenge it, if you go to court, you need the result sheet. Either from the polling unit agent or returning officers to tender in the court as an exhibit. Now you can see from the big parties, from the PDP, they couldn't generate the result sheet from their polling unit agents. So the judgment of the Court of Appeal was directed at the party management and the seriousness of the party and the presidential candidate. Nothing short of that.
But they're able to present, certified true copies they obtained from INEC in terms of, that highlighted some of those glitches.
INEC on is a secondary issue, because INEC on is to make a comparison between what you submitted and what is in their system. But the primary submission lies with their own agents. And it is not the duty of the court to go and find it for you. So the one, I believe the legal minds did not get it right, or did not really advise their clients on how to deal with the issue. And I foresaw it coming very clearly, that this judgment is likely to come out the way we expected it. For me, I've not expected the judgment to come outside what it was.
So you also align yourself with the thought, with the school of thought that the petitioners did not prove their case.
They did not prove their case. The parties did not do their job very well. Not just the candidate, the petitioner, but the parties. They couldn't do their job properly by getting reasonable, responsible party agents that understand their functions. Either they were trained properly or not, or what to do, or otherwise. That is why some of us were not worried to join the petition. Because we know that we have deficiency in that. So why do I go into a legal issue? Simply because I want to make them, or I'm trying to negotiate for something. It doesn't make sense.
Negotiation. Perhaps anyway. Sure. Okay, let's look at the other side of the judgment. Even though you're not a lawyer, actually, but then I want to get your view concerning the reasoning of the Supreme Court along the openings, if you like, or attempt to bring in fresh evidence, especially those arising from the CSU. Some say the reasoning was largely technical, instead of looking at the law and what have you. And that has, generated a lot of reservation on the part of especially the petitioners. What do you make up with that?
Well, largely judgments of Court of Appeal and Supreme Courts largely are policy judgments. Some of them are technical, some of them are political. Now, if the courts do not apply these principles and just deal with issues that are mainly emotional, sentimental, or so on and so forth, you'll wake up and find out the country is in flames. But you have to deal with the details. And if the details are not sufficient enough, you cannot plug the country into anarchy. That's the practice globally. Now, in this case, like I have mentioned, the party suffered a major shortfall in terms of their ability to organize their own processes properly, to train their agent properly, make sure they have copies of the result sheet from the polling unit, you know, to the ward centers, to the local government centers, to the state centers, in case of the election, presidential election, to the national center. There's absence of that collection of documents that are needed, and that was a major area of strength of the judges to analyze and looked into. Some of them that were presented were not stamped. So you cannot adjudicate over it.
Yeah, I'm talking about the findings from the CSU, and then, I mean, the attempt to present them at the Supreme Court. Perhaps they could change the narrative or change the direction of the judgment. Do you think there is a case there for the petitioners? I'm
not a lawyer, but I know that if you don't pray for a particular issue, it is difficult for court to accommodate it. It has to be inclusive in your prayers. If you do not include it in your prayers, like I have said, even the entire controversy surrounding the president and so on and so forth, largely 80% of predictions is that the Supreme Court would not entertain it because it's not part of the prayer. And then once it's not part of the prayer, it's going to be very complicated for it to be done. But not that they cannot do it. The Supreme Court can always reverse itself when there's a very tangible, strong evidence in the overall national interest. They can do that.
All right. Okay. Let's look at, we're still with the judiciary. Like we have with the election management body, that is INEC, after the 2023 election, the outcome has led to some sort of deficit, trust deficit between the institution and Nigerians. And here we are again with the Supreme Court judgment and some judgments around the country also putting the judiciary on the spotlight. Some say, there's some significant mistrust, if you like, existing between the judiciary and the Nigerian public. Take, for instance, judgments around the governorship election petitions that, that emanate from some of the lower courts. Let's take Kano, for instance, that has generated a lot of concerns. And then recently we have also this judgment of the Court of Appeal, which reverses the lower court in River State, restored the candidature of the APC candidate.
Bayelsa.
Yeah, Bayelsa, sorry, within a couple of days. And then the submissions, submissions by the outgoing, the retired Justice Detijo of the Supreme Court, during his valedictory session. All of this culminated into what some would call trust deficit. What's the implication of all of this on our democratic journey and, of course, the rule of law?
There's a massive, massive trust deficit between the judiciary and the Nigerians. It's extremely, very, very high. It's very disturbing. More so, given the legal luminaries that have went through the process up to the Supreme Court and on their valedictory session, what they have narrated called for concern, how the judiciary is working, how it is functioning. It has created a bigger gap in the minds of the citizens that the judiciary possibly is not the hope, the last hope of a common man. You cited an example of Kano. Kano produced the highest votes in this last election, over 1.something million votes.
Right. Around 1.2 there.
1.something million votes. And then if you look at our geopolitical history, if you look at in 1983, if I'm correct, the Akin Omobo case of Ondo States during Shagari regime, when that judgment was tampered with, the military gave the reason of taking over the Shagari regime as a result of that decision to annul the election. And what is even surprising to me and very amazing indeed is that the judiciary is the oldest three arm of the government. Judiciary have been around more than any other arm of the government, more than the executive, more than the legislature. So they are supposed to have sufficient experience, particularly in management of political issues and decisions that will have grave consequences for the country. And if you tamper with strategic states in Nigeria, particularly Kano elections, Lagos elections, Port Harcourt elections, you are likely to have crises that you cannot manage. And therefore, my appeal to all of us, the political actors, the judiciary, is to be extremely very careful. The judiciary, the judicial officers, the judges must be extremely very careful in, pushing themselves into politics that they have no business to do. They should look at the merit of the issue. More so the president and the commander in chief who have an oversight function to make sure there's peace and stability in the land. Because the president have the Chief Justice of Nigeria that have an oversight function to look into issues and over advisory notes, for the good governance and stability of the country. Some of these judgments have a multiplier effects on the country.
Yeah.
So,
but the Chief Justice of Nigeria, recently during the inauguration of some High Court judges, did mention that public opinion will not override the judicial. I mean, what is found, what is logical, what is constitutional. So it is not about public opinion. It's about applying the laws. In some cases, Nigerians may look at issues differently, but the judges would have to stick to the constitutional provisions and then do what is necessary.
Yeah, but what is public opinion really? If you analyze what he said, what is public opinion? This election was conducted by INEC. And I know that the INEC chairman have interfaced with the judges, all the judges that were constituted to preside over the tribunal cases. The INEC have briefed them comprehensively on the issues that are involved. Because some of the judgment, you cannot really place them vis-a-vis the Electoral Act, what the Electoral Act have said, vis-a-vis the powers that INEC have. You cannot really make sense out of it. Now, can you have a conflicting issues from the arm of government established by law? And can you say that the opinion that was generated in the overall national interest of the country can be ignored and the country cannot be on fire? It's not possible. So public opinion matters anywhere in the world where the predominant opinion of the people are tilted towards a particular issue. It behoves on the judges to look into it critically and deal with it. The more you ignore it, the more you generate crisis, the more you generate distrust, the more you generate gap that you cannot manage.
But at the same time, we're also having people who are aligning themselves with the position of the judiciary. For instance, while the presidential candidate of the PDP is crying foul, his members, rather his governors, were seen at the presidential villa, aligning themselves with the judgment of the Supreme Court and then calling the president a Democrat. And this happened across some party lines.
No, what I'm saying, I made it very clear that, look, nobody that is quite experienced with political processes would differ with the judgment of the Supreme Court. It started from the Court of Appeal. The technical fact that were established by the judges were right. That's why I'm telling you, largely those judgments deal with political parties and candidates to be more serious when conducted. They be committed, they should get serious people, agents to look and make sure they got the necessary documents that are ready. Otherwise, there's nothing the court can do for you. The court cannot go out there and look those facts for you. You are the one, you are the petitioner. So the burden is on you to prove what you are not satisfied with, not the court to do it for you.
That's right.
Now, that is aside. Now, we are mentioning about public opinion, what the CGN have said. Public opinion is critical in any government, whether military or democratic government. You can't take it away. You cannot take it away.
But does it constitute
if it is subversive, if it is a breach of the Constitution, it can be ignored. You have to ignore it because the Constitution supersedes any other consideration. Now, if you look at the Electoral Act, is very faulty. A lot of things created this problem that we are going through today. They were in a hurry to come up with the Electoral Act. The former president was in a hurry to sign it into law. And it swayed 70% of those who produced the law in the National Assembly. Now, if you look at all these, and the judges, in their own thinking, in their own wisdom, in their own superior, analysis by putting things together, must look at facts associated to every election. What led to it? Now, I asked this question when we were having a meeting with INEC chairman, with all the political parties, that look, the ballot papers are product of law. And it is INEC, it is only INEC that were authorized to produce ballot papers. They are the only one that are authorized to certify it. Now, if INEC have counted ballot papers and certified it,
they become valid.
Yeah,
they are valid.
They are valid. Yeah. Now, if a judge, simply because they have not looked at this technical aspect of it, governed by law, that validated this process, and decided to say, look, I have invalidated these votes, that is a call for anarchy. Yes. Because it will create unprecedented crisis that is likely to truncate the system. Don't forget that if you look at the African continent, the West African sub-region, virtually most of the countries are under military rule right now.
Takeovers, yes.
They are taking over. Nigeria is the biggest country in terms of democracy in Africa. And we must be very careful how we manage it. Our judges must be extremely very careful. The president should not allow his aides to mislead him on certain issues that will lead us into a very treacherous situation that we cannot hold together. This is the point that I'm making. As an operative of the system, I've gone through it severally. I believe that the judiciary should have been more circumspect, stronger, viable, because they are the oldest in the three arms of the government.
Okay, there are some fault lines, that came out of that valedictory session. Talking about the allegations of corruption around judicial officers, issues around nepotism in terms of appointments and so on. How do you think all of this, contribute to this trust deficit that we're talking about?
Unless the judiciary start having judgments that are technically very sound, people who have cases that have merits, those cases were delivered on the basis of the merit of the case. Any diversionary will create more gap between the citizens and the judiciary. The perception on the street is that you cannot get justice in the Nigerian court. Almost 70% perception. It's a perception. But it's left for the judges. It's left for the country, the president, the National Assembly, to correct these perceptions. If this perception continues, then people will be taking laws into their hands. Because if they go to court, they will tell you they will not get justice. Part of the reason you are having this insecurity all over the place,
people take laws into their hands.
Because they assume that even if they go to court, they will not get justice. That is the danger of having a judicial system that is being compromised, perceptionally or otherwise.
Right. Okay, very quickly, we're running out of time. Just a minute. I would want to get your take on the handling of the affairs of the state by the present administration, talking about President Bola Tinubu. In terms of governance accountability, he's been charging the ministers and so on and so forth to deliver or to get sacked. But then there are also concerns around cutting the cost of governance. Billions of naira have been expended on things that some felt were not necessary. Buying cars, for the office of the First Lady, buying, renovation of the houses of the president and his wives, go up in billions of naira in the face of struggling economy. What do you make up with that? Let me get your last line on that.
Well, I can say that listening to the president in the last 1 week, I'm quite impressed more than any other time. Some of the statements he made are presidential, are tough, are precise, are target-oriented. Number two, I don't know what miracle they can perform in terms of the economy right now. The naira have overcrashed, it's still crashing. Nigeria is not producing, we are still importing. Even the goods that were lifted for importation, they are not going to import it with local currency. So I don't expect any miracle. The only thing that is crossing my head is that the government are not prioritizing the economy. One, you must have financial policy where the interest rate must be crushed. People can have access to something and generate
single digits, perhaps, interest rate.
Two, the president must put subsidy on agriculture, must put subsidy on education. must put subsidy on transportation. If we want to reduce the level of suffering that the country is going through, the country is swollen. And the president must know that. There's hunger, there's poverty, no money to buy food. There is virtually no solution to the problem right now. Now, if you are sacking people simply because they cannot perform, it's because they don't have nothing to perform with. There's nothing on ground they perform. I pity the president. He inherited a zero system, a system that have collapsed. He inherited a government that have collapsed. The security was collapsed when he took over. The political environment was very chaotic, very violent. The segregation in the country was extremely very high. The security agencies are uncoordinated, they don't share intelligence.
Because that trajectory continues. Talking about segregation, talking about...
Well, it continues unless the president developed a system that will bring Nigerians together. It's part of the reason why some of us advise that, look, develop a government of national unity. Get the best brains around you that can advise you. When you maintain the status quo, when you bring products that have no experience, have not worked anywhere, they added no value to you. It's not about patronizing your party. It's about patronizing the country to be on its feet, economically, politically, and socially. Bring a diplomatic skill into play, just the way President Yar'Adua have done to reduce the level of tension all over the country. I believe he can do it. He have the experience to do it. All he needs is to engage the political leaders to discuss these issues. Up till now that I'm talking to you, the president have not deemed it necessary to sit down with leaders of political parties and hear from them. How do you solve such problem when you have no direct source?
And we're talking about coming together to build a nation. Now that the litigations are over.
Yes, so the litigations are over. He needs to build a nation. He needs to move on. He needs to take away people that cannot add value to him. Otherwise, history will still record him as such.
Right. Thank you very much, Alhaji Shehu Musa Gabam, the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, for your informed perspectives on these key national issues and, of course, your takes on the Kogi governorship election ahead of the November 11. And on this note, because this is a wrap on the show tonight, and of course we do hope you had yourself an interesting time watching. If you found this conversation engaging and informative, then join us tomorrow. We'll be back with another interesting topic and personalities. Until then, I'm Shapiro Suleiman, thanking you for staying with us.